Big recruiting news. Cormani McClain, the #1 corner in the country, committed to Florida. No, he did not. No, he did not. I'm hearing it's actually Miami for Cormani McClain. What I just did was a semi-dramatic reenactment of what it was like at 24/7 Sports headquarters, CBS Sports headquarters, pretty much every Florida message board from coast to coast, and half the Miami message boards. No one really saw this coming, or did they? Certainly inside our four walls here. And you know what? We're wealthier than that. We got more than four walls around here. We got like 5 or 6 of them. Sort of a hexagonish office at this point. No one saw this coming. So everyone was taken off guard by this. Now, I know that immediately everyone wants to resort to, well, he got bought. Yep, bag must have dropped. Hey, yeah, basically, do you understand what era we're living in? Do you understand how this game's played now? So I got a few thoughts on this because I fielded some drastically different text messages in tone over the last hour. Had some coaches reaching out, had a ton of fans reaching out, and some people in our industry reaching out. And I'm just going to repeat what I've repeated 1,000 times. This is just 1,001. Recruiting is not for the faint of heart. If you want to wait and feast on backup options, that's cool. But if you're going to recruit at the highest level, it's a knife fight. Just because you don't see the headlines every day, it's a knife fight. It always has been. There are just new elements that have entered the room now that you have to deal with. But it's always been something that if you're squeamish and you live and die with each recruitment, this is not for you. You need to take a nap. You need to stick with the on-the-field play on Saturday and just come around on signing day and see where your team finished and see who they signed. This is not for you. Now, if you can stomach it, then this was a pretty entertaining roller coaster. Certainly not entertaining for our Florida fans, but this was an entertaining roller coaster. Now, firstly, what does this mean in the team rankings? This puts Miami at #8 overall nationally. This is, in terms of a late move, not a shock. Mario Cristobal and those guys are going to do this. They are going to recruit at a high level. There is zero doubt. There never should have been any doubt. So if I told you that someone was going to sneak in the back door and take a kid from the perceived leader by virtually everyone, which was Florida, it was going to be Miami. That's not a surprise. I don't think Alabama was a factor in this really late, but I think, as you can see, Mario Cristobal and Miami were. So here's what's always fun. I was on the phone with Wiltfong right before I went on air, and I said, Stephen? He said, Joshua? I said, when do you think this thing was decided? And here's me assuming that Miami must have swooped in last minute on Cormani McClain, because, I mean, it was assumed by everyone he's going to Florida. And Steve said, I'm not so sure it happened last minute. I think we had some bad intel, but I think the folks inside the Miami complex knew when they woke up this morning where Cormani McClain was going. And the more I have poked around on this iJosh over the last 30 or so minutes, I think that's true. First off, hat tip to Steve Wiltfong for saying, yeah, we kind of whiffed on that one. It happens. You are not doing this job the right way if you don't occasionally go out on a limb, especially when you got intel. It's not a coincidence everyone was on Florida. It's because that's what the intel was suggesting. It's just another hat tip, a bigger hat tip to Mario Cristobal and his staff, because they had their ducks in a row. They had a game plan. They executed it. They got their target, one of the top targets in the country, kept a kid in state, and no one knew. Now, that sucks for us because we always want to know, but no one knew. I know this is upsetting to a Florida Gator fan. And I also know, because when I'm talking about coaches texting me, it ain't Miami and Florida coaches. It's just innocent bystanders. And there are a lot of coaches out there who watch this, and you feel kind of helpless because you're looking around in the NIL era, and you're saying, well, what if I do all the right things recruiting a kid, and then someone just comes in at the last minute, and they just swoop in, and they drop a check bigger than I can drop? This is general commentary. I cannot give you specifics or details on what happened with Cormani McClain. I don't follow recruiting at that level. That's other jobs around here. But what I would say is suck it up. That's what I would say. This is the era you're in. This is the world you're in. So you got a few choices now. You can either match bags with the big boys. You can get more creative or find other ways to sell your program. Or you can sit around and wait till they've made their moves. And you can choose door number 3. it's probably just not realistic to compete with those other teams if you're continually choosing door number 3. My feedback is you got to suck it up. I know it's not fun, and I certainly know that's not the way recruiting has worked. That's the world now. That's where we're living now. Am I thrilled about it? No. I don't particularly love this. It has nothing to do with any one kid or any one program. I would greatly prefer the way it used to work, which leads me to my next point that we're going to touch on later in the show. I can promise you someone just heard me say something I didn't say. Guarantee it. Absolute 100% money back guarantee. Someone just heard me say, no one ever paid kids to go to school before. Jesse, I guarantee someone just heard me say that and I didn't say it. But it'll be out there anyway. So Cormani McClain to Miami, huge pickup for Miami. I encourage you, go to 247sports.com, check out Steve Wiltfong's story because he talked to Mario right after this happened and got him on the record. And by the way, 48 hours before a big game, they're playing Virginia, I think, this week. That's not the easiest thing to do. So Stephen Wiltfong working the phones tonight. I'm always fascinated by this stuff. Just always fascinated. Early signing day is still 2 months away. A little under 2 months away. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure to leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.